It's 5 p.m. across India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll bring you all the day's big stories from across India and the world. With me today from London is my colleague, Ollie Barrett. A busy afternoon in London, Ollie?
Very busy, Tanvi. Thanks. It's 12:30 p.m. here in the UK, 1:30 across Central Europe. We have got lots coming up in the next 30 minutes, including a controversial announcement by the UK's Prime Minister, which has just happened, the latest from Ukraine's conflict, and some new polling numbers from the US as well. First, the headlines.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak cancels phase 2 of the high-speed rail project to Northern England at his first Conservative Party's conference speech, says we'll reinvest every single penny saved from the scrapped project. 2023 Nobel Prize in Chemistry announced. The prize rewards US-based trio for the discovery and synthesis of quantum dots.
Nobel Prize in Chemistry in equal shares to Monge Bavendi, Louise Bruce, and Alexei Yekimov.
And India achieves its best ever medal tally by winning 74 medals at the ongoing Asian Games. Archery mixed team bags gold. Lavlina wins silver in boxing. Up first, news of the ongoing India-Canada diplomatic row. Speaking on the India-Canada relations, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that the country will continue to engage responsibly and constructively with the government of India.
To have diplomats on the ground working with the Indian government there to support Canadians and Canadian families. We're taking this extremely seriously, but we're going to continue to engage responsibly and constructively with the government of India.
Meanwhile, Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly said that the country wants private talks with India to resolve the diplomatic tensions. She added that Canada is in contact with the government of India.
Ever, it's important that diplomats be on the ground. And that's why we believe in the importance of having a strong diplomatic footprint in India. That being said, we are in ongoing conversations with the Indian government, and we will continue.
Now, the 2023 Nobel Prize in Chemistry has been awarded to 3 US-based scientists, Monge Bavendi, Louise Bruce, and Alexei Yekimov, for the discovery and synthesis of quantum dots. The Nobel Committee said that the quantum dots will be of great importance in nanotechnology and can help develop tiny sensors and thinner solar cells in future. Quantum dots are used to illuminate computer and television screens. Doctors use them to map tumors. They can also be used to guide surgeons while removing cancer tissue.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has decided to award the 2023 Nobel Prize in Chemistry in equal shares to Monge Bavendi, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, USA, Louise Bruce, Columbia University, USA, and Alexei Yekimov, Nanocrystals Technology Incorporated, USA, for the discovery and synthesis of quantum dots.
On to Europe now. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has set out his mission to pitch himself as the reformer and fundamentally change United Kingdom at his first Conservative Party's conference speech as Prime Minister on Wednesday. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, has Sunak taken the most tough decisions of his premiership yet?
He's certainly taken a major decision which we knew was coming, but it's now been confirmed, Tanvi. Rishi Sunak using this first Conservative Party conference speech since becoming Prime Minister to do just that and go ahead with the scrapping of the northern leg of the HS2 high-speed rail line. It's a multi-billion-dollar high-speed train line from Birmingham to Manchester that will no longer happen. The southern part from London to Birmingham has already started being built. He says he's prioritising long-term decisions above short-term opportunism. The UK's Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt had said that the second phase of the HS2 high-speed rail project was over-budgeted, and so the government is setting out alternatives instead for that infrastructure spending. Let's go live now to DD India's Julia Chapman, who's been watching what is a key speech for the UK Prime Minister for many reasons. And Julia, this came with a self-described gatecrasher before the speech. The speech itself is still going on. What have you made of it so far?
Well, this was certainly a long-awaited announcement by Rishi Sunak after weeks of speculation that the government would be scrapping the second leg, the second phase of the high-speed rail project that would have seen it stretch from the city of Birmingham to the city of Manchester. But as you say, there was a special unannounced guest ahead of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's speech, his wife, Indian-born Akshata Murthy, who spoke of how ambition was central to Rishi Sunak as a person as well as a politician. And she spoke about how close the two were and how much confidence she had in him as the country's Prime Minister. Now, Rishi Sunak then took to the stage himself to outline what he sees as some of the biggest achievements of his nearly one-year premiership, talking about the difficult decisions he's already made about British policy when it comes to reaching net zero, some of the opportunities he says the country has taken advantage of since leaving the European Union. But it was undoubtedly rail and particularly the HS2 line that everyone was waiting for an announcement on. Now, Rishi Sunak will come under some condemnation for scrapping this long-discussed, long-planned project, which has already seen a great deal of investment. But he said the facts have changed and the approach needs to change too. The projected costs have more than doubled, and he says the economic reality simply doesn't support this project anymore. Instead, he says the government will take the savings from the extension of the HS2 rail line and invest them into more local transport in the north to make sure that the benefits are still being felt in the region. That was the big concern of many local leaders, that northern cities would be neglected, that their economies wouldn't benefit as expected. But undoubtedly, there will still be some concern that a lot of money's already been invested in this. Business decisions have been taken on the assumption that HS2 would eventually reach Manchester. So there will certainly be some criticism of this announcement by the Prime Minister today.
OK, Julia, thank you. That is Julia Chapman reporting from London. And let's hear now a little bit of what Rishi Sunak has been saying in that speech in Manchester.
Ending this long-running saga, I am cancelling the rest of the HS2 project. And in its place, we will reinvest every single penny, £36 billion, in hundreds of new transport projects in the North and the Midlands across the country. This means £36 billion of investment in the projects that will make a real difference across our nation.
Moving on to the Ukraine conflict now, and the Russian Defense Ministry claims that it downed 31 Ukraine-launched drones overnight over the regions of Belgorod, Bryansk and Kursk. Russian officials say there is no information about potential casualties at this stage. The Bryansk governor claims Ukrainian forces fired cluster munitions at several villages there. He says several homes were damaged, but no casualties were reported in the attacks so far. Russian officials have repeatedly accused Ukraine of indiscriminate shelling. Ukraine's Navy says 12 more vessels are ready to enter the Black Sea shipping corridor on their way towards Ukrainian ports, and 10 more are ready to depart. A Ukrainian Navy spokesperson gave the update as the country tries to defy a de facto Russian blockade on exports via the Black Sea after Moscow pulled out of a deal in July that had allowed Kyiv to safely export grain. The White House has expressed confidence the US will continue to provide assistance to Ukraine despite Congress's failure to approve additional aid for the war-torn nation in government funding passed over the weekend.
The President reaffirmed the strong commitment of the United States to supporting Ukraine as it defends itself for as long as it takes, as did every other leader on the call. The leaders discussed efforts to continue providing Ukraine with the ammunition and the weapon systems that it needs to defend its territory, and to continue strengthening Ukrainian air defenses as they prepare for more attacks on critical infrastructure now, certainly, but also certainly in the winter months ahead. As President Biden made clear, we cannot under any circumstances allow America's support for Ukraine to be interrupted. Time is not our friend. We have enough funding authorities to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs for a bit longer. But we need Congress to act to ensure that there is no disruption in our support.
A protest has taken place in front of a NATO military base in southwest Germany against what demonstrators claim is the military alliance's fueling of Russia-Ukraine tensions. They expressed their opposition to NATO's stance and urged the alliance to end its involvement in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Since the war broke out, NATO has strengthened its military deployments around Eastern Europe. There were also protests in cities including Berlin, Hamburg and Dresden, also urging the German government to stop providing arms to Ukraine. And DD India's Megami Lim has more now from Kyiv.
Been quite a bit of uncertainty surrounding the status of U.S. aid for Ukraine after U.S. Congress over the weekend passed a last-minute bill, a funding bill which excluded additional aid for Ukraine to avert a government shutdown, which is why, as you mentioned earlier, President Joe Biden convened a call with G7 leaders, Poland and Romania, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, and the presidents of the EU Commission and European Council to reassure Western allies that the U.S. remains staunchly in support of Ukraine, and he expressed reassurance that and confidence that Congress will pass legislation soon which will include additional aid for Ukraine. And he also said that the leaders of the Senate, which is controlled narrowly by Democrats, have pushed for further legislation and to make sure that there will be ongoing support for Ukraine. And of course, they discussed more air defenses for Ukraine and more the strengthening of the energy grid as in the coming winter months, as Russia is expected to target Ukraine's energy infrastructure. But of course, there is still some uncertainty because the United States is going through a kind of limbo as they search for a new House Speaker to replace Kevin McCarthy. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said that it will take about 3 days for the search to happen, but he has warned that funds are drying up, that it is crucial that Congress approves fresh aid for Ukraine. If not, funds will run out in the next few months. And people whom I've spoken to here in Kyiv have expressed some concern over whether or not U.S. aid will continue. So indeed, there's still some uncertainty surrounding the status of U.S. aid for Ukraine.
The European Union will reportedly begin formal talks to start Ukraine's membership bid by the end of this year. The EU is expected to give a nod on work towards Ukraine's future accession to the 27-country bloc, followed by a formal announcement by around December of this year. Ukraine would be required to meet 7 conditions in order to start talks on joining the EU. The country had only met 2 of those 7 by August. The European Parliament's Environment Committee has backed former Dutch Foreign Minister Wopke Hoekstra as the EU's next head of climate change policy. Hoekstra and Maros Sefcovic, who is the nominee to lead overall coordination of the European Union's green policy, both secured approval from lawmakers representing at least 2/3 of the committee. The candidates still need formal approval from a majority of the full EU Parliament in a vote on Thursday.
So, I'm just out of the coordinators' meeting where we found a 2/3 majority from EPP to Greens, so EPP, Renew, SND and Greens, without ECR, ID and Left, to support the nomination of both Mr. Sefcovic and Mr. Hoekstra.
At least 21 people, including 4 children, have died and 18 more were injured after a bus carrying tourists crashed off a flyover near the Italian city of Venice and caught fire. The bus spun out of control, plunging from a bridge, and fell close to railway lines in the district of Mestre. The cause of the accident remains unclear. It happened at around 7:45 p.m. local time. With rescue operations still underway, the death toll is expected to climb higher. Local firefighters say victims identified so far were Germans as well as Ukrainian tourists. The Venice mayor has visited the accident site and said that some of the injured victims are in a critical condition. According to Venice City Councillor, the 40-year-old Italian bus driver who was among the dead was taken ill prior to the crash. To the United States now, and for the first time in the history of the US, a Speaker of the House has been ousted. Kevin McCarthy was removed as the House Speaker, a position which is second in line to the President after the Vice President. In a 216 to 210 vote, McCarthy was ousted as 8 members of his party joined 208 Democrats to remove him. Republican lawmakers say they require a week to select the next Speaker and will then hold a candidate forum. Until then, Representative Patrick McHenry's been named the temporary Speaker. After his removal, Kevin McCarthy said he would not run for the position again.
Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is necessary. I don't regret standing up for choosing governance over grievance. It is my responsibility. It is my job. I do not regret negotiating. Our government is designed to find compromise. I don't regret my efforts to build coalitions and find solutions. I was raised to solve problems, not create them. So I may have lost a vote today, but as I walk out of this chamber, I feel fortunate to have served the American people.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has received his first positive poll rating since May in a new survey by Rasmussen, which shows 49% of Americans approve of his job performance, while 48% of them disapprove. It is the first time that more Americans have given Biden a thumbs up than a thumbs down in a poll included by 538. The president's last positive approval rating was reported in a YouGov survey in May, although that stands as an exception since a majority of polls have been indicating a negative approval rating for Joe Biden. A bipartisan US Senate delegation will visit China, Japan and South Korea later this month. The 6-senator group, co-led by Republican Mike Crapo, will be seeking to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. The announcement was made by the office of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's been urging US lawmakers to take a tougher stance on China. His office says the trip's goal is to advance Washington's economic and national security interests in the region. That's it from me here in London for now. Tanvi, back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Ollie. Ollie Barrett joining us from our London bureau. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. India star Neeraj Chopra in action at the Asian Games men's javelin throw final, will be aiming for second gold in the event. Pope Francis reiterates call for protection of nature, issues a new document warning that the planet may be nearing the breaking point.
That never stops, where information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authenticity.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Pope Francis has called for climate action, warning that the planet may be nearing the breaking point. His remarks were published in a 7,000-word document released on Wednesday ahead of the COP28 climate summit in Dubai. The Pope said that the transition to clean renewable energy and the decline in use of fossil fuels was not happening fast enough. The last time the Pope published a document on environment was in 2015. Back then, he called extreme weather events the Earth's cries of protest. Next news from India now. In a tragic incident, around 23 Indian Army personnel have been reported missing and several vehicles are submerged as a sudden glacial lake outburst took place in India's northeastern state of Sikkim. Defence spokesperson said that the lake outburst caused a sudden rise in water levels, and intermittent rain and thunder showers were hampering rescue operations in the area. Severe damages have been reported in Mangan, Gangtok, Pakyong and Namchi districts. Many bridges have also collapsed and houses have been washed away. Sikkim's connectivity with West Bengal via Siliguri is blocked in at least 4 places on National Highway 10. Still with India, it was a historic moment as the Indian Air Force today received the first indigenous twin-seater light combat aircraft Tejas fighter jet in Bengaluru today. Built by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, these aircraft are equipped with indigenously developed ISA radar system. Take a look. In a major boost to Make in India in defence, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited handed over the first twin-seater light combat aircraft to the Indian Air Force in Bengaluru. Minister of State for Defence Ajay Bhatt, who was at the ceremony, called it a historic day for India.
आज पुनः एक इतिहास रच दिया है हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स द्वारा और जिसके अभी एग्रीमेंट हुए हैं सारे एग्रीमेंट का मैं साक्षी हूं। यह एक ऐसी महत्वपूर्ण उपलब्धि है जो हमारे स्वदेशी एरोस्पेस उद्योग के कौशल को दर्शाते हुए राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से आत्मनिर्भरता के प्रति हमारी प्रतिबद्धता की पुष्टि भी करती है।
Indian Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary said that a contract for 83 additional light combat aircraft has already been signed.
We have now signed a contract for 83 additional LCA and we are moving forward to procuring 97 more LCAs. In the coming years, we will have a fleet of 220 LCAs in the inventory of the Indian Air Force. It goes without saying, it's a matter of pride not only for us who serve in the Air Force, but for the entire Indian industry, for all those who have made this possible. And once again, I wish each one of you all the very best to ensure that we in the Indian Air Force receive our aircraft on time and we start flying them in good period of time. Once again, my compliments to all the stakeholders and best wishes to all of you for a very bright and successful future.
Light combat aircraft Tejas is a 4.5 generation all-weather and multi-role fighter aircraft. The aircraft capable of taking up offensive air support, close combat and ground attack role at ease. It is also designed to undertake ground maritime operations. LCA Mark 1A is the most advanced version of the LCA Tejas. It is equipped with ISA radar, EW suite consisting of radar warning and self-protection jamming, digital map generators, smart multifunction displays, combined interrogator and transponder, advanced radio altimeter and other advanced features. Light combat aircraft Tejas will facilitate both the modernization and indigenization of the Indian Air Force's aircraft fleet.
Now, India's capabilities of self-reliance in the fighter jet technology is exhibited through this LCA Tejas combat aircraft, and this is going to be another feather in the cap of India's Atmanirbhar and self-reliance towards military technology. With cameraman Uttam, Asha Khanam, DD India, Bangalore.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A startup firm in the United Kingdom has developed novel detectors that can track some of the most dangerous space debris, pieces measuring less than a millimeter in size that are endangering satellites and spacecraft. Space debris is caused by collisions between satellites and abandoned space junk, which produce clouds of material that move faster than a bullet. German students tested their prototype of a pedal-powered submarine off Spain's Canary Islands ahead of competing in international races to raise conservation awareness without harming marine ecosystems. The sub, designed by soon-to-be engineers at the Hochschule-Rhein-Wall University, is fitted out with a sort of underwater bicycle piloted by a scuba diver. A 104-year-old Chicago resident may soon get recorded in Guinness Book of World Records as the world's oldest skydiver. Hoffner is still waiting for her record to be certified. She is set to turn 105 in December and says that she'd like to take things easy next summer by going on a hot air balloon ride. Now, updates from the ongoing Asian Games in China. India clinched a record 77 medals at the Games. With this, India now have the biggest ever haul at a single edition of the Games. India surpassed its tally of 69 medals from 2018 Asian Games. Jyoti Surekha Vennam and Ojas Devtale won gold in compound mixed team event in archery this morning. The duo defeated South Korean pair of So Cheon and Jo Cheon 159 to 158. Athletes Ram Babu and Manjurani secured a bronze medal in the 35-kilometer race walk mixed team event with a combined timing of 5:51:14. Praveen Hooda clinched maiden Asian Games medal in the 54:57 kg category for India, marking an incredible achievement for the country in Hangzhou. The Indian squash pair of Deepika Pallikal and Harinder Singh advanced to the finals of the mixed doubles. In semi-final, they beat the Hong Kong duo of Lee Ka-yi and Wong Chi-him by 2-1. Pugilist Lavlina Borgohain clinched a silver medal after she lost to home favourite Lee Cheon in the final of the women's 75 kg category. India's top badminton pair of Sathvik and Chirag beat the Indonesian pair after a fierce game to move into the men's doubles quarterfinals. Next up, they face Prajogo Jie pair of Singapore in the quarterfinals tomorrow. And in the men's Greco-Roman race, Sunil Kumar has won bronze while Harmilan Benz have won silver in the 800-meter race. Avinash Sable has bagged silver in men's 5,000-meter race. So India continues to shine at the Asian Games, and it is India's biggest ever medal haul since the 2018 edition of the Games. So with that, it's a wrap in this edition of DD India Global. Do join us for another edition of DD India Global at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. That is 2 p.m. GMT. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram at DD India Live. You can also find us online on YouTube at DD India. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.